Hi everyone. So it is week 5, grammar rule number 1. And for the first part of this video, we had to watch Taylor Molly's poem, The Impotence of Proofreading. And then we had to read the how is I before E except after C rule. I found this actually very funny because we all do it, especially with our first draft. I've read my first draft over again and it's pretty amazing how we don't think as we read and reread it, I guess. So the second part of this was to find at least 2 resources from the list below and to find certain grammar rules that we may mess up a ton. I have a lot of mistakes that I make, but there's a few that I found in these sources that I'd like to share with you guys. So the first source I found was The Oatmeal, 10 words you need to stop misspelling. So I am very, very guilty of messing this up. Effect versus affect. Another one I found is BuzzFeed, 15 common grammar errors, and it is using I when you really mean me. It may sound like a very simple thing, but it will get you more than you think. So for the tutorial, I would like to share one rule that I found that a lot of us mess up and a lot of us could use a little more practice on. So it's how to use a semicolon. So it basically, when using a semicolon, it connects 2 independent clauses. So if you don't know what independent clauses is, basically like two statements that can stand as a sentence on their own. So it basically, the semicolon eliminates the need for, or eliminates the stop, and instead it brings a pause to 2 statements without using conjunctions like such as but, and, nor, or yet. So in other words, there's sentences that have to stand alone as their own, like I mentioned. So a big rule for this is do not use semicolons with conjunctions. So a correct way to use this, which I found some very interesting sentences, so don't make fun. The ice cream truck man drove by my house today, semicolon, he had big hairy knuckles, period. So basically, the ice cream truck man drove by my house today, period. He had big hairy knuckles, period. So there are 2 sentences that you have, basically they can stand alone as sentences, in other words. So we can put a semicolon there in between them and it would make sense and it flows a lot better. So an example of a wrong way to use a semicolon, and again, this is another weird sentence, so bear with me on this one. It's supposed to be fun. So my aunt's hairy knuckles are magnificent indeed, semicolon, but I have no desire to stroke them. So the reason why this is wrong is, first off, it's rule number 1 is you cannot use a semicolon with a conjunction. And as we see in the sentence, but is a conjunction. And if you think about it this way, my aunt's hairy knuckles are magnificent indeed, period, but I have no desire to stroke them, period. So the first sentence is able to stand on its own, but the second sentence with the but, it's not a complete sentence. It's missing a good part of it. So that is when a comma would be used instead of a semicolon. So there's it's an interesting kind of saying that I found that actually makes a lot of sense. So a semicolon is also known as a pause. So both bears and semicolons have pause. Makes sense, right? So with a semicolon, it's a moderate pause. With a comma, it's more of a brief pause. And then a period, obviously, is a complete stop at the end of the sentence. So I also found a very interesting idea that I didn't know existed beforehand. You can use a semicolon as a super comma, basically. And I don't want to get you confused with a regular comma versus a semicolon. So in this example, we use the semicolon as a super comma by saying this. While searching for a good place to get a burger, comma, I traveled to Seattle, comma, Washington, semicolon, Tokyo, comma, Japan, semicolon, and London, England, period. So basically the semicolon was in the middle of Seattle, Washington, and Tokyo, Japan, and London, England. So you're separating these ideas. Obviously, it's a city and a state, or, and you're separating them with a semicolon instead of just a regular comma, because if a regular comma, you're already separating the city and the state. It'll be really confusing if you just comma Tokyo, Japan. It makes more sense and it flows a lot better with a semicolon. And all of these rules are going to be typed out on the bottom of my video, just in case you're interested or have this issue, because I know it's a very big issue for me, and I've been doing even advanced English classes for a long time now, so I completely get it. Thank you again for listening to my video, and I hope you enjoy.